It's a Russian takeover.
Yes.
It's what I had said on the last one. This is how, on that last time we spoke, I said this is how Russia was born.
Yeah, of course.
And this is it. I mean, every day they've got these get-rich-quick schemes. You know, well, let's put a church. I mean, let's don't put a church, let's put a bar. Let's don't let the church rent that building, but let's go buy a church and put offices in it. I mean, and there's no way for the citizens of Myrtle Beach to compete if they don't have any regulations. But any man who buys a building, his biggest competition is the real estate company called the City of Myrtle Beach. They are a real estate company. And they're buying real estate and they're putting people out of business. Then they're buying the real estate for pennies on the dollar. Then they're putting a friend in that real estate. And the voters need to know to stop this. They're the only ones that can stop re-electing these people who have more or less taken over the real estate business. The voters need to understand that it's such an important time if they will just ride down the road and see all the 100 empty storefronts. I think 137 empty storefronts now, and more coming, and more coming. I have 2 people leased from me now. They say they're out of Myrtle Beach. They don't want to be in the city limits of Myrtle Beach. And I guess the city is going to try to force me to sell them my property so they can give it to one of their cousins or one of their friends or whatever.
Well, let's talk about that a minute. The thing that bothers me is what they've done in the super block now, if in the latest iteration of what they've done in the super block. They've designated their Arts and Innovation District. I think it's between 8th and 9th Avenue North, Kings Highway, Oak Street. It's got some of Main Street in there, got some of Broadway. The city bought those buildings. They bought it surreptitiously. People didn't know the city was buying them initially.
They bought them secretly with a secret agent.
And exactly. And until it was actually forced out that the city was buying these. Now, there is a process that the city has that people who are potential lessees or buyers of these buildings have to make a proposal for a specific space and what they're going to do in that space. That will then be reviewed by the city staff to determine if that fits in with what the leaders, and I'm not sure who the leaders are. To a great extent, I don't believe it's council. I think it falls back into Peterson and his minions and city staff, what they think should be in there. And then the city staff will make a recommendation to council as to whether they should allow this business in. Now, we put, as you put it, we put a bar out. Natalia's Bar was put out of business by the city. It was intentionally put out of business by the city. And now it's the same space, or close to the same space anyway?
Same space.
There's going to be a craft beer joint go in there. Now, we don't know who it is that's going to be involved in it. I think it's GSB Enterprises, is that right?
Who is GSB Enterprises?
Well, I looked it up on the internet and I didn't find one.
Oh, look at that.
I didn't find
and
it.
They don't want to tell the voters.
GSB Properties LLC is not registered with the Secretary of State. There is a G, an S, and B with the ampersands specifically in between. Properties LLC, but that's owned by some doctor up in Sumter or Sherrall or someplace, I forget exactly where, and I can't believe that that's him. But there's no GSB Properties LLC registered with the Secretary of State that I found on the internet yesterday. However, there is some kind of proposal by GSB Properties LLC, who right now I can't even prove is a real business, at least not registered with the state as a business, that has made this proposal. And you've taken a property that the city estimates is worth about $450,000 in round numbers. As I understand it, if the city approves this craft beer, and it sure looks like they're going to, they had to pay $3,000 down, $7,000 at closing. The city would hold the title on that for another year, so they can then go ahead and apply to state and federal grants. And if they get the state and federal grants, tax money, calling it a historic district and renovation, building renovation and all this kind of business. Then they'll also have the opportunity to use the South Carolina's Bailey bill, which gives up to, and the city is doing for 10 years, property taxes at a reduced rate, at the rate that was on the building before any improvements were made. Now, that is social engineering. That is central planning by the government. That is socialism. That is what we're not supposed to be about in America, but that's what we are about with this current council in Myrtle Beach. I am Paul Gable. I'm sitting here talking to Tuvia Wilkes about the upcoming election in Myrtle Beach in November the 5th. And these programs are all paid for by the Horry County Citizens for Responsible Government.